Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the September 16th, 2018 special edition of The Breast There Is, The Breast There Was, and The Breast There Ever Will Be Wrestling Podcast. As always, I am your host, Mikey B, WWE. And today is a special broadcast, of course, because this evening is WWE's pay-per-view Hell in a Cell. This is, of course, the first pay-per-view since SummerSlam. And before I get into my predictions for this evening's show, I must first mention how my prediction percentage has gone so far for the season. Up until SummerSlam, I was cruising at a very solid 70%. SummerSlam didn't go as well as I had hoped. Unfortunately, I wound up getting, out of the 10 matches on SummerSlam's pay-per-view card, I only got 4 out of the 10 correct. However, 2 of those matches, even though I correctly guessed that certain champions would retain their belts, there were 2 disqualifications results in that pay-per-view, which, of course, I got wrong, namely the AJ Styles Samoa Joe match and the Bludgeon Brothers and New Day. So, anyways, that's how it goes. It's always difficult to assess when disqualifications, countouts, things like that are coming into play. So regardless, I'm hoping after this pay-per-view tonight I will bounce back and get a positive pay-per-view correction percentage and bump this back up. So right now, after being at well over 70% for the first third of the year, after SummerSlam, I dropped down to 30 correct out of 47, giving me 64% correct. So that was a pretty big drop-off after sitting around 70%, 72% for the first 4 or 5 shows of the year. Okay, so having said that, now moving on to tonight's action. Hell in a Cell tonight will feature 8 matches on the card. The first match is for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, featuring the champions The New Day taking on Rusev Day, which is Rusev and Aiden English. I'm someone that's certainly a big advocate and fan for Rusev particularly, and though I feel he certainly is deserving of getting another title, especially since he's become quite a popular babyface in the WWE, I still see that The New Day, after defeating the Bludgeon Brothers following SummerSlam on a SmackDown Live edition, I think the New Day will retain. It's certainly not out of the question that the Bludgeon Brothers may make an appearance after and cause some havoc, but and I also think Rusev, the team of Rusev Day, could be back in title contention again, but I'm giving the victory tonight to the New Day to retain the SmackDown Tag Team titles. The second match of the night is for the other tag team championships, for this time on Monday Night Raw. It is featuring recently crowned champions Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre taking on Intercontinental Champion Seth Rollins and his Shield buddy Dean Ambrose. Of course, in recent weeks, one of the biggest storyline developments in WWE is the appearingly a new formed faction of Braun Strowman, Dolph Ziggler, and Drew McIntyre. These 3 form quite a mighty trio, and I have a feeling that the 3 of these guys, the WWE has set up to not only be a faction for a while, a strong heel faction, I might add, but I could see this certainly lending or carrying over until Survivor Series in November, having these 3 taking on the Shield and maybe adding a few other people to their team. So this is a feud and a program I see will be lasting for at least the next few months. Having said that, the most logical thing when the company is building any big heel faction or a wrestler turns heel, is to give them some heat, some power by making them win some championships and looking strong. So I'm thinking that Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre will retain their Raw Tag Team Championships today over Rollins and Dean Ambrose. I think it will be in a dirty way. But I do think that those guys are going to keep their belts, and I'll explain a little bit more later to that note. The third match on the card is a mixed tag team match with Daniel Bryan and his wife Brie Bella taking on The Miz and his wife, Maurice. The Miz and Daniel Bryan have certainly had their storied history, and The Miz got a very controversial victory over Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam. I gotta think though tonight Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella will get the victory, and hopefully it'll be justified. And Daniel Bryan, I think, needs some wins in the column over The Miz. So this one certainly could go either way. The Miz and Maurice could pull some dirty stunts and get the victory, but I'm going with Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella to be victorious tonight in that match. The next matchup is for the SmackDown Women's Championship, featuring champion Charlotte Flair taking on her old BFF Becky Lynch, who, as we've all seen after following their match at SummerSlam, has since turned heel. This is Becky Lynch in particular is someone who I feel the WWE has they've made an incorrect move by turning her heel. It's been pretty obvious, certainly since the moment when she turned heel at SummerSlam. The crowd went bananas. It went crazy in support of Becky Lynch, which is generally not a good sign. When a company makes a character turn heel, usually they want shock value. They want people to just be, just so not only shocked but just stunned, and to quickly change their favor about how they feel about that person or that team. But this has not swayed apparently the WWE Universe's opinion of Becky Lynch. She is still seemingly even more over with the crowd and more popular than Charlotte Flair is. So I think they're going to stick with this, though, and keep Becky as a heel character. And I think, of course, the best way to do that, just like I mentioned a few moments ago, would be to give them some power and make her, or give a person or a team power like this and have them be victorious, and even if it means winning in a not so clean way. So I got to believe that Becky Lynch will win finally her long-awaiting championship, even if it is in a dirty way. So I'm choosing Becky Lynch, once again, like I did last month at SummerSlam, but I'm choosing Becky Lynch to be victorious and actually win the belt tonight. So that's my choice for that match. Moving on to our first Hell in a Cell match of the evening. It'll be between Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton. Two guys who are certainly destined to be future WWE Hall of Famers. This is a tricky one. Of course, Randy Orton has been, for the last few months now, been attacking Jeff Hardy a lot, and from behind and blindsiding him. I gotta think that, and as well, Randy Orton has been in somewhat close contact with Shinsuke Nakamura, who is conspicuously absent from tonight's pay-per-view. I got a feeling that Randy Orton is going to prevail over Jeff Hardy tonight. I just think that, Randy Orton, rather, being such a strong heel character, and again, with probably some assistance from maybe his buddy Nakamura, I think he's just going to come away with this victory. And this feud may continue. It may not sure, but it's always nice seeing two, like I said, future Hall of Fame WWE guys, going at it and having a feud and a good program. So if they can keep this one interesting, that would be great. And even though I think Jeff Hardy, it's tempting to have him choose him for victory, since when it comes to matches like ladder matches and extreme style matches or whatever matches like Hell in a Cell, he's usually, I think, the most fans would choose to want to see him be victorious. But again, with what Orton's been doing lately in the last several weeks and months, I got to choose him to be victorious in their Hell in a Cell match, probably with Nakamura's help. So Randy Orton's my pick. The next matchup is for the Raw Women's Championship, featuring champion Ronda Rousey taking on Alexa Bliss. This, of course, is a rematch from their SummerSlam championship match when Ronda Rousey successfully defeated Alexa Bliss to win the belt. Alexa Bliss does have certainly a few members in her corner with Mickie James and Alicia Fox to help her. Ronda Rousey does have the equalizer, though, with Natalya being in her side. It remains to be seen if all of those additional friends of these two competitors will be at the ringside or not. Regardless, I don't see Ronda Rousey losing her championship yet after being successful and being so dominant in her bout against Alexa Bliss at SummerSlam. So I think Ronda Rousey, despite some expected and anticipated interference from Bliss's little entourage, I think Ronda Rousey will retain her championship tonight. The next match is for the WWE Championship, featuring champion AJ Styles taking on Samoa Joe. This one, of course, the storyline, if you've been paying attention in the last month and a half, has really gotten on very personal. Samoa Joe keeps referencing AJ Styles' family and his wife and saying all these things. It gives you kind of a dirty feeling when the WWE resorts to storylines such as this. So, and I don't generally make predictions like this, but I have a feeling this one may result in the exact same finish as the SummerSlam matchup, which is that AJ Styles, due to his anger and frustration towards Joe and all the personal attacks Joe is making on AJ Styles' life, I think AJ Styles is going to lose his control and his temper, get himself disqualified again, still retain the WWE Championship, mind you, which is a very big component. But Samoa Joe, I think, will get the victory here via disqualification. So even though I believe AJ Styles to be the better wrestler, and I think if without any dirty tricks or tactics involved, he would be victorious in a match between these two, I got to say that Samoa Joe, just based on the storyline, how they've been working it, that Samoa Joe will be the victor tonight by disqualification, but will not win the WWE Championship. So Samoa Joe is my pick for this match. And now, moving on to the final match of the night, the main event, the 8th match. It is for the Universal Championship, and it is the second Hell in a Cell matchup between champion Roman Reigns taking on Braun Strowman. Roman Reigns, of course, won the Universal Championship last month at SummerSlam over Brock Lesnar, who had held it for almost a year and a half. And Braun Strowman played an integral part in that matchup, we all thought was going to probably cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase. Instead, he has announced that he's doing it at this particular program tonight. So something definitely worth noting is that legendary hardcore wrestler and Hall of Famer in the WWE, Mick Foley, will now serve as the special guest referee in this particular match. And with like I mentioned earlier, with Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre, I believe, retaining their tag team championships tonight, I think to make this faction really bad and evil, I think Braun Strowman is going to win his belt tonight. Kind of like Becky Lynch, I think it was a very questionable call to turn Braun Strowman into a heel character. He was very popular up until he made this little heel turn a couple weeks back on Monday Night Raw, and the crowd was behind him. And I think, if anything, the company, of course, still ever believing in Roman Reigns as their company man, doesn't want to have Roman Reigns face somebody in a main event who is a lot more popular than he is. So they felt clearly it was a necessary move to have Braun Strowman turn heel and seemingly join this faction with Ziggler and McIntyre. And I think to make them all those heel characters look really tough and strong, the best thing to do would be to have them all be champions. And that would certainly make for a compelling storyline and program for the following months. Lots of possibilities that they could work with the Shield and with these other three guys. I'm a big fan of factions when they're constructed well. I think that it makes it makes for so many more possibilities with storylines and programs. So I think this would be a great move if Braun Strowman were to win his belt tonight. I'm sure there will be interference from Ziggler and McIntyre, and probably the Shield will try and help defend Reigns, but I think these other guys are going to use dirtier tactics to ensure that Braun Strowman will win the belt, and all three men, Strowman, Ziggler, and McIntyre, will be champions come the end of the night. So there you have it, folks. Those are my predictions for the program tonight. Hopefully it's a good show, and hopefully we get some surprises and interesting developments here. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel below if you liked what you heard. Thanks very much for listening, and see you next time.